Hello, good evening, and welcome back to the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast, brought to you by tvsportsblog.com. A big thanks to our sponsors who bring this show to you on a weekly basis. It's our Premier League debate, and the topic of this week's debate is the mighty Pep Guardiola. Is he overrated? Can he do it with a weakened side? You know, people always talk about him maybe being not capable of winning the Champions League without Leo Messi, for example. Has he reached his peak with Manchester City? Can he rebuild again? Those are the questions that we're going to be going through on this week's edition. First of all, I want to say a big hello to a guy that you probably all recognize, a colleague over at the 90-minute gas tag show. It's none other than Mr. Buvey. Welcome, mate. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah, how are you? All good?
Not too bad, man. Not too bad. And look, Manchester City fans, they do actually exist. So there you go. There's one in the flesh. Also joining me this evening, Dan DeLuca. Welcome back to the show, mate. How are you?
Yeah, very well. How are you?
Not too bad, my friend. Not too bad. Keeping busy. And of course, my right-hand man, the one and only Mr. Symeou Alavi. How you doing, mate?
I'm good, man. You well?
Good. Yeah, can't complain. Can't complain. Interested to hear all sides of this debate. Now, let's begin with Dan, because Dan, you are one of the few people that I know that thinks that Pep Guardiola is overrated. I'm not saying that you sit there and you say he's a bad manager. It isn't that extreme, but you don't believe that he's worthy of the hype that seems to follow him around. Do you want to explain why?
Yeah, and you've made the most important point there. It's overrated doesn't mean you are bad. And every time you start making points about why someone's overrated, everyone says, oh, he's done this, he's that. I'm not saying he's a bad manager, but he's the single most overrated manager in the existence of football history. He has never done anything any other manager could not have done, not a single thing. And throughout this debate, I can systematically, point by point, demonstrate that as a fact. Starting with the obvious, he takes ready-made teams and he fires as much money as he possibly can. He can have as many attempts to buy whatever he likes until he gets it right. So we can start wherever you want. I can see obviously our Man City fan shaking his head. I'd expect that, but actually by the end of
I'm enjoying it. It's funny.
Even if he says, actually, you've got half a point, I'll take that. But it's a fact. He is not on the same level as Alex Ferguson. He's not on the same level as Jose Mourinho. He's not on the same level as Jurgen Klopp. He's not on the same level as Carlo Ancelotti. That's pretty obvious. So he should not be talking about in those terms. He is a top 5 manager in the Premier League. That's about where it stops.
If I can,
we'll start slowly.
Yeah. I mean, do you want me to reply or how do you want to do it, Harry?
Go for it, mate. Go for it. The forum is yours. So.
Well, the first thing I want to say, obviously, I'm on your show and I want to be balanced as possible, right? So maybe I should start by saying, let's not talk about Man City, because if we talk about Man City, we start going into all the 100 points things, and it gets a bit, it's hard to reflect on Man City at the moment because obviously he's still the manager. He spent a lot of money, of course he has. So it's hard to reflect on him in an accurate way. And I think Arsenal fans can reflect on their greatest ever manager, and Arsene Wenger, with a bit of objectivity. I think, you can have your review about him in his way. With City fans, it's hard to do that for Guardiola because obviously he's still our manager. So if you look at Barcelona, I think that is obviously it's the peak for me. He came into a side after having zero football experience as a first-team coach, and he won Spain's first ever treble in his first season at Barcelona. Messi says that the season that he first came in, he actually introduced a sort of system that instantly made him flourish. And in his first season, if you look at Messi's stats when Guardiola came over, based on the season before with Frank Rijkaard, Messi actually improved massively under Pep already.
He was 19.
There's obviously after Spain's first ever treble, where Barcelona were arguably playing the best football of all time in terms of possession and the amount of chances created and the limiting of opposition sort of chances. You look at clubs around the world that basically try to copy the formula. And if you look at international football, one of the only countries ever, I think, that won a Euros and then a World Cup and then a Euros in that order is Spain. And what did they do? They played a 4-3-3 with a false 9 or an inverted striker, and it was down to Guardiola's tutelage that Spain won those 3 trophies. So if we take Man City away from it, I'm trying to be as objective as possible. There are players and managers that say Guardiola is not one of the best managers currently. He's one of the best managers ever.
Buvey, quick point I'm going to put to you just before I bring Alavi in, and then I get Dan to respond. I want to say a big thanks to Rob for his donation as well. He's put a question. It's a very kind donation. Thank you very much, mate. He says, Jose gets stick for never giving youngsters a chance, but Pepper's only ever brought through one player from debut to become a first-team regular. Fraud. Do you agree with that? I'm judging by your reaction that you don't.
Rob lives in America. He can't talk about football.
Yes, he can.
Well,
Yes,
well,
he can.
yeah.
Next.
If he's talking about Man City, he might be right.
Next.
Talking about Man City, Rob.
Stick to soccer, mate.
Yeah, you can't talk about Bayern or Barcelona. He brought through at least, we're talking double figures for the amount of players he brought through. Busquets, Xavi improved under him. I don't know if he came through technically under him, but Busquets certainly did. Pedro, unbelievable amount of players that came through under him. So
I think this idea that he inherits a great team and does nothing is rubbish. Like, if you look at the players that he... No. Because, Dan, if you look at Barcelona, he got rid of Ronaldinho, Deco, Eto'o, Thuram, Zambrotta. He does to a degree. I don't think we're in a Sir Alex Ferguson or Bob Paisley era where managers make stars out of the ordinary anymore. And he did do that with Barcelona. He doesn't always, inherit a brilliant team. Managing big clubs comes with, I don't know, an assortment of egos, conflicts, a pressure to perform. Look at the way, I don't know, he's handled Jesus and Aguero. He keeps them both happy. That takes something. And anyone who witnessed tiki-taka football, that's the best club football we will ever seen. That comprehensive understanding of like space and belief in the style is like admirable. Like, you have to put some sort of, I don't know, value on how a team plays. And I get that, Klopp and Symeou and other managers figured out how to, play against him by, say, pressing high and destabilising the midfield. But you can't say that his football, for one, isn't admirable. And he has made adjustments. I don't think he can make adjustments in a game. I'm with you there. But he has made adjustments with City. So who would ever thought we'd see, I don't know, two number 10s like David Silva and De Bruyne played together that far as that three, but behind the front three? Who would have thought that we'd have Edison in his long distribution? Who would have thought that we'd have inverted fullbacks to give those extra passing angles in the middle of the pitch? These are new things he's done with City. These aren't things he did with Bayern or Barca. So he has adapted. He hasn't adapted. I don't think, like I said earlier, I don't think he's able to maybe be so malleable during a game like we saw the other day against Spurs. But he has adapted from Barca to Bayern to City. So that's one thing I don't think you can take away from him.
Before I bring Dan back in, I just want to say that I place a massive emphasis on style. And for me, that is why I find it really difficult when people discredit Pep Guardiola, because it's, playing the Mourinho way, for example. You're kind of relying on an element of luck because, if you're sitting back and defending, there's a method to it, but you're also relying on your opponent not being able to break you down. You're not on the front foot. You're not taking the game to people. And that's why I kind of believe that Pep Guardiola, and I don't want to bring this into an Arsenal debate, but that's why I always thought Arsene Wenger deserved maybe more praise than he got, because he was always willing to be bold and to try and take the game to teams, even when the teams were maybe better than us. Dan,
we saw him live, didn't we, at Barca a few times against Arsenal?
Yeah,
we did.
And honestly, when you watch him live, Dan, it's unreal. It's unreal.
Yeah, so this is it. So I'll try and get as many points as I can across in a short period of time. All right. So picking up on one of Alavi's points there, that he didn't inherit a great side. Okay, he took over Barcelona there's 2 seasons before then. There's 1 season in between. They were European champions. He inherited the European champions, and they had an academy that was coming through. Yeah, he'd worked with a couple of them at Barcelona B. Get all that. No one's saying he's a bad manager. He's not the greatest. And my overriding point, I've not seen him do anything that no one else would have done with those sides. So we said we're going to take Man City out of it. I understand why, but you can't take Man City out of it because these are the points. You're using points from Man City to kind of back up what you're saying, Alavi. So look at Man City. He was bought to Man City. So Lawrence will know why Pep Guardiola was bought to Man City. He was bought to Manchester City to win the Champions League. Okay, the last manager not to win the league for Manchester City was Mark Hughes. That's the last manager to fail to win the title with Manchester City. So Mark Hughes, that's the level. Everyone else has done it. Anyone else who came into that job would have won the league. They've won League Cups, they've won the FA Cup. He was brought into the Champions League. He can't even beat Tottenham over 2 legs. I mean, that's what we do. He's been knocked out by Monaco, who were an absolute mess at the time, and Liverpool, who were about 20 points adrift in the season. So he has fouled today at Manchester City. He's done some good things, obviously. But you're mentioning Arsene Wenger, Harry. And 10 years, people have played good football before. Yeah, Barcelona are mesmerising. I loved watching Barcelona. But it's not the first time someone's played good football. We had total football in the 70s with Ajax. You know, Arsene Wenger played good football in this country. You know, some Italian sides have been playing good football. So we talk about him not taking over good sides, Alavi. Okay, so over the last 4 years, who are his best players at Manchester City been? Who are they?
Go on, Lawrence. You
Okay.
Aguero, Silva,
Yeah, De Bruyne, Sterling.
Yeah.
John Stones, obviously.
Right, so you got Aguero. So let's say you got Sterling, Aguero, Silva, De Bruyne, Fernandinho, company. Is that fair?
At points, yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Right. All of them were already there when he took over.
Yeah, and a lot of them have got better.
Yeah, they've all improved. Even Aguero.
He's inherited that team. He's inherited that team and been given £600 million to spend around them. How are you going to foul?
I think it does say something. We've seen 8 Champions League finals in the last 8 years, obviously, and none of them have included Pep. So something is going wrong in knockout games, aren't they? Like, there's one thing to be able to beat teams over and over in the Premier League, and it's another to be able to tactically win a knockout game. Sorry, Dan.
Then he takes over Bayern Munich, who at the time are the reigning European champions. He's taken over the reigning European champions. They're about to go and win the World Cup with Germany. He takes them over and then buys a player from Dortmund. Dortmund have already lost 2 players a season before to Bayern Munich. So it's a complete one-team league. He takes over a team who have won the league by 25 points the year before. In his first season, he gets less points, loses more games, and scores less goals. Okay? He doesn't win the Champions League. He gets absolutely thumped. He takes a year sabbatical between Barcelona and Bayern Munich. Why is he taking a sabbatical? He's taken a sabbatical because there's not a ready-made team for him. Because this guy knows his limitations. He knows exactly what he's capable of doing and what he isn't. And the next team he'll manage will be Juventus, or it'll be PSG, or he'll go to China and collect salary. Because he's not brave enough to manage a small club, because he knows he's not capable. Okay? He gets the luxury that other managers don't get. Like, Mourinho fouled at Manchester United, you could argue. He won some stuff. But he fouled because he spent money on shit defenders and didn't have any money to replace them. Pep Guardiola brings in a clown in goal. And the next year, he's allowed to buy another clown to buy himself out of trouble, you know? And eventually, you're going to get it right. It's just a sack of money thrown at him around the skull. The Manchester City fan named 7 players, and every single one of them was there. Okay? So we can say it's attractive football, it's exciting, but are you excited? Are you excited, really? What?
Are you asking me a question, or is that a rhetorical question?
No, so it's a rhetorical question. I guess winning teams, and so I wouldn't know. Okay, I wouldn't know.
Should we just dial off, Harry?
The club I support don't win much, okay, or anything. But you can't make a case for it being exciting when you can't sell out an FA Cup semi-final and you have to give tickets back, and there's swathe of empty seats. He's not even getting fans to the stadium. So what is he doing?
I can come in here if you want, Harry. I mean,
bring him in.
I've had my.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. The big thing for me, like, if you want to, you can't criticize Man City fans. If we're having a debate about either if Guardiola is a fraud in the Champions League or if Guardiola is one of the best managers ever, they're obviously different debates. I think it's a bit of a low blow to talk about City fans. Every area of the UK is different. City have been to a lot of finals, a lot of semi-finals. Obviously, FA Cup finals now. Semi-finals are at Wembley. It's very expensive. So I wouldn't condone the fact that modern football fans, especially in sort of economic climate that we're in, can't afford to go to football games. So that's one of the low blows that I'd instantly reject. I think it's actually quite poor to talk about City fans in that way. Everyone's different. Every City fan's different. London's obviously an affluent area. That being said, Guardiola, yes, he has not adapted in modern football. I think the point about the last 8 Champions Leagues not included him in a final is absolutely right. I think there are points in the games where he hasn't adapted. He's gone very safe. I can definitely talk about against Tottenham at White Hart Lane when we obviously lost 1-0. He plays the week before we were playing really good football, 4-3-3.
He played 4-4-1-1, didn't he, against Spurs?
Yeah, and he put Gundogan on a floating right midfield role, sort of basically man mark, do a Mourinho. So I completely agree with you about the fact that there are moments where he hasn't been perfect. The counter I do is obviously for the topic of this debate, talking about his lifetime legacy in football, and if he's one of the best. I think if you talk about the manager position in football, there's never a clear winner. I think in some sports, you look at basketball, maybe Michael Jordan's the best basketball player of all time. In football, as players, I think you could say Messi, Ronaldo. I think it's a bit more clear cut. In managers, it's down to style, it's down to what the fans like, it's down to what the club's expected. So I think it's 5 or 6 of all time. Obviously, you mentioned Bob Paisley. You can talk about Shankly, Ferguson. There are even Wenger for his contribution in North London. But Guardiola's won the same amount of Champions Leagues in about a third of the time as Ferguson. None of the managers you listed have won any more Champions Leagues than Mourinho. Mourinho obviously is a top manager. I think he's included in that roster. But if you're talking about what Guardiola did, he didn't invent total football. He learned it from Johan Cruyff. He's been very honest about that. He lauds Johan Cruyff in every interview he possibly can. He says that he adapted the style, and I think he made it fit for modern football. He made it a bit more aggressive, a bit more physical. So if the debate's going back to the original sort of subject matter and not about City fans not attending football games, then yes, obviously, if you win the same amount of Champions Leagues as Alex Ferguson in a third of the amount of time, he obviously goes down as one of the best managers of all time.
But do you think that he could win a European Cup with Porto in 2004? Can he win European Cup with Inter in 2010?
Yeah, but hold on.
And
Alavi,
even
wait, I'm going to stop you there because
go on.
that Mourinho example drives me mad when everybody talks about the Porto thing, because Greece won the European Championships in 2004. Are we going to sit here and say that because Otto Rehhagel won that he's a top manager? And it's
a bit different though, isn't it?
No, listen, I rate Mourinho. I do rate Mourinho. But for me, it's always that Porto point. It drives me mad because it's a one-off.
No,
first of all, it's harder to win Porto in Champions League than it is. Yeah, that's what. First,
right?
that was my second point. Yeah,
and also, Christmas, like Tottenham last year, they got to the final. That might not happen. You can get lucky once. To do it twice, knock Pep Guardiola out in the second time, by the way.
I don't think Pep Guardiola even wins the Europa League with Man United in 2017 or can finish second, because I don't think he's. I don't think he has an alternate plan in games. He's a vision. He has this vision that he wants to play. He has these small details that you always see him working on in training to fit his system. Whilst with Jose, he creates a system based on players, and he's malleable, and it's based on what is best for that team. So everyone labels Jose as boring, whatever, but his Chelsea team weren't boring. He knows how to adapt. You look at Enrique, you look at Ancelotti, you look at Symeou, Klopp. All these players all these managers rather, or former players as well, have figured Pep out, and Pep hasn't changed, and that's substantiated by the fact that tactically he has not got to a final for 8 years. So is it important to get results?
Or you know what's interesting?
Just play this
I'll defend
way. Sorry,
I'll defend Pep just a little bit on that point. I'll defend Pep in the sense that has he been figured out by those managers? Probably not, because I'd probably say his winning record against those managers is better.
Yeah, it's still better.
Against possibly not Jurgen Klopp, but Jurgen Klopp's clearly a better manager. But let's put that to one side. And I'll defend Pep in the sense that, again, we're not saying he's a bad manager. The fact we're judging him on Champions League titles highlights how good a manager he is and has been. But we're talking about overrated, and if we're talking about him in all-time greats, where we're saying Mourinho won the Champions League with Porto. So Pep Guardiola wants to run on the pitch and tell everyone how they should manage, but he doesn't want to do it himself. Like, he'll put his arm around Nathan Redmond and start coaching him. Well, the Southampton job has been available twice. I didn't see him applying. I've not seen him.
Why would he? Why would he?
Well, Lawrence, do you think that to be a great manager, he should go and do something? I know Southampton's a silly point, but you get the point Dan's trying to make. Do you think he should try and do something like that? Like Ronaldo just went, you know what, I'm not going to sit in one league, I'm going to move to a different league. And do you accept, being a City fan, that he tactically lets you down in the odd game?
Yeah, look, I've already admitted the tactical side of it. I completely agree with you guys, right? I think if I quickly talk about the tactical side first, Arsene Wenger in his peak sort of Arsenal years played some of the most beautiful football. I was a secret admirer of it, of course. You did it against City for years. You went to a Champions League final against Barcelona. I'd say you actually outplayed them, even obviously with 10 men, and you still lost. So it's easier said than done to go to a Champions League final and play your way. Now, you can do it the Mourinho way and try and minimise your losses. That's fair enough. And he did that twice with Porto and Inter Milan. They were brilliant performances. But to go then to two Champions League finals against great Ferguson sides, let's be honest. The first time in particular was an exceptional Ferguson side with Ronaldo and Berbatov, Tevez, Rooney, Scholes, etc. And he put his style on it. So when Guardiola's style gets to 100% sort of optimum performance, it's unplayable, and that's why he is regarded as one of the best of all time. The thing is, you counter that with the Ferguson stuff and other managers that have won things with worse side. I think it's completely fair. I think Ferguson did some great things with some average Man United sides, but then he also did stuff with Aberdeen. He did great stuff with Aberdeen in the late 80s and got them to European Cups and stuff like that, I believe. But can you do that in the modern day? Could Alex Ferguson get Leicester City to win the Premier League? It's a very tough debate.
Ranieri did.
Yeah, well, Ranieri did, but would Ferguson do it the same way? Would he play a 4-4-2, very conservative formation? Who knows? It's a very theoretical thing to say. All the proof's in the pudding is that Guardiola went to 2 Champions League finals. He's only been in 2. He's won 100% of them, and he played an impeccable game of football. Wenger went to a final. He didn't.
Here's the other thing as well. Dan, you mentioned that he should, he maybe should go to another club to maybe prove his worth. People talk about Mourinho's victories at Porto. Now, given the choice, would Mourinho have walked straight into the Barcelona job or taken the Porto job? He had to take that Porto job. It wasn't an option. It wasn't, do you want to manage Porto or Barcelona? No, I'll take Porto. Thank you very much. He was there because he had to build his reputation. Guardiola's been fortunate that he walked into Barcelona and they took a gamble on him it's worked out. But now Mourinho is at Spurs, not because he wants to be at Spurs, because his reputation has taken such a beating over the last few years that is now his level. And I don't even mean that disrespectfully to Spurs, but his level is no longer where it used to be. Therefore,
Pep wouldn't take the Spurs job.
Pep wouldn't get to that point, I don't think.
He wouldn't take it.
No, maybe he wouldn't, but maybe he wouldn't.
I think it comes down to, if you look at Mourinho in that example, he's managed in Spain. He's managed in England. He's managed in his home country. He's got 2 options, really. He goes to Germany, or he manages another club in England. He lives in London. He's been offered a job. He's taken it. What would Pep do? Mourinho hasn't taken that job because he thinks he's going to foul or because he thinks the club's too small for him. He takes that job because he believes he can improve that club. He believes he can do something at that club that no manager has done recently. Not that difficult at Tottenham because the bar's quite low. Okay, noted. But he believes he can do it. And what I'm saying, for Pep Guardiola to be considered a great manager, can he just do one thing, even one thing?
He already is.
That is not base expectations. Because
he already is. He doesn't need the. Yeah, the issue is that you're talking about it in a very, I think, historically wrong manner. I think he already is one of the best managers of all time, and he's still present. And we've actually got to look at it in a very. The way he's changed football in the last 10 years, the fact that you got likes of Bournemouth getting promoted and they're playing out from the back in a very, very similar way. You got even England under Gareth Southgate is playing out from the back football with their goalkeeper playing long sweeping balls and they're pressing from the front. We've got one of the best managers of all time currently managing, and we're very, very lucky for that.
Yeah, but again,
I don't think anyone's doubting his innovative. Like even Dan would.
Yeah,
find it. You can't be begrudging.
Things done, and I'm not the nice football. I'm not too bothered about. If I've got a choice of having a manager who wins ugly or wins pretty, I'll take the manager who wins pretty. Obviously, I pay to watch football like most of us do. So I'm fine with that as a principle. But with the Bournemouth example, okay, they're playing nice from the back, and a lot of that stemmed from the Barcelona impact, if you like. But Norwich play nice from the back, and they're bottom of the league, and they're going to go down. So it doesn't work for everyone. It works if you have good players, and you might get some who slip through the net. Like Sheffield United having a fantastic season. Sheffield United are doing superbly. They're not playing out from the back, so there's a bit of horses for courses there. But in terms of being simple, I don't want to keep going over old points. He has taken over teams who are in a position to win the league. He's taken over the best sides in that league. Until he does something different, he doesn't deserve the right to be compared to certain managers like.
But that's Dan.
Yeah, but he doesn't though, because how can?
But then, right? So
who's won a European Cup with Aberdeen, you're going to compare him to Jurgen Klopp, who's won Dortmund's first title in 15 years. He's about to win Liverpool's first in 30. And I don't know how we can put him in that category whilst he won't even attempt to test himself. Now, when he's retired,
You don't know that. You don't know that because he's still active. You can't say that. Ferguson never tried it.
Yeah, it's true. To be fair,
you can't say that about him. Can you?
It's a fair point. It is.
Wenger didn't try it. Wenger was comfortable. And he didn't win anything with you guys for 15 years or something.
Yeah, and I don't class him in great. I don't class him.
He had to get a dig in. He had to get a dig in. Dan's not an Arsenal fan, by the way, Lawrence.
Oh, right.
none of us are.
No, I'm not an Arsenal fan.
I thought you were
literally just Harry. No.
Oh, I kept digging you guys out. Sorry, Harry.
No. I just come onto a.
Did you support Dan?
I just come Tottenham. You can't even beat them.
You're a Spurs fan.
Yeah, exactly. How can you not beat Tottenham?
We did. We won a trophy. We won 3 trophies. You won about 1 in 30 years, haven't you?
And that's the point. And you
with all the Tottenham talk, I can see my subscriber count just dropping dramatically.
This is the point. If you can't beat Tottenham over 2 legs, you need to seriously have a look at yourself in the mirror. Especially when you take the lead at home and we've got Laurenti up front and you still can't shut a game out.
Yeah, but you didn't win it.
Okay.
You didn't even win it.
No,
you were happy to be in the final.
I was delighted.
Yeah.
Delighted to be beating Pep Guardiola on the way. He beat himself, to be fair. But,
see, that's how big he is.
Right, here's a question. Right. What would you say Man City's weaknesses this season?
Well, it's not rocket science.
Yeah, a mixture of defensive midfield position and centre backs, obviously.
And do you think there's a coincidence that Pep Guardiola 4 years ago said quite openly, I don't coach defending?
No, because
he couldn't account for Laporte's injury, could he?
Absolutely ludicrous. The point you're trying to make, I get. Right, the fact that the thing you said about Mark Hughes has actually not been phrased in a way. I do a lot of shows, a lot of podcasts. It's actually phrased in a brilliant way. The last manager we've had that didn't win the league was Mark Hughes, so it's a brilliant point. Now Mancini won it by goal difference. Pellegrini won it sort of on the last day against West Ham, obviously the Gerrard slip that season. So you're completely valid in that point. So Guardiola hasn't come in and won the league by 4 points, 3 points, a goal difference win. He's won it by 100 points. Liverpool were 25 points behind that season, and they've come through it and progressed incredibly well. It's just recency bias. We're all looking at Liverpool now; they're top of the league. This time last year, we beat Liverpool 2-1. It was one of the best games of football I've ever seen in my life. And City came out, we won that game, and we won 13 games in a row to win the Premier League. It's just recency bias. So if you actually look at the trophy haul of Guardiola in his career, he's actually managed for about a third of the time of Klopp has, and he's won about double the amount of trophies, if not nearly triple the amount of trophies. So if you want to be, just based on recency bias, then we wouldn't talk about any other season except the most recent football match. Just look at the records that Guardiola's got. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Is he taking South Korea to 4th though? Has he got that ability?
It's all well and good saying, well, he's won.
They are valid points about managers. I don't see
they're
why.
They're not valid points. They're not valid points, and I'll tell you why they're not valid points. I haven't spoken much on this one, so I'm gonna have my fucking rant now, okay? Because we're talking about your all these examples that you're citing. Mourinho winning the thing with Porto. I brought up the Greece example. You're talking about
use Greece.
No, forget that. Wait. You're talking about. You're talking about
the streets of Southgate pretending that they've done really well tournament.
You're talking about, can he take South Korea to 4th? If you're a top manager with top job offers on the table, why would you take those jobs? You wouldn't. Alavi, if somebody offered you a mega contract after mega contract in your work time and time again, are you going to say, actually, I've got enough money now. Do you know what? I'm going to go and work in a local firm and earn crap money just to prove myself that I can turn it around. No, you're not. Nobody cares about what he might do.
Do something like do charity work because I'd want to show something that I could do something that wasn't the same, given the best of everything all the time. It's the same thing with Pep.
But
why doesn't he just
winning is
managed like a Spurs, for example?
This is why the point of the trophy haul in the half the time it becomes irrelevant. It's like saying Harry Redknapp only won 1 trophy in his career.
None at Spurs though.
And yeah, exactly. This is my point. Exactly my point. He hasn't managed. He hasn't managed on. If Harry Redknapp took over Manchester City tomorrow, he would win the league. He would win the FA Cup and he'd win the League Cup within 3 years.
I don't know about that, man.
No, he wouldn't.
Never been done before, so obviously not. It's never been done in England, a domestic treble. never been done. So that's an irrelevant point to say someone else would have done it prior when it's literally never been done.
I said within 3 seasons, but actually, the reason why
Harry Redknapp.
This is opinion, right? I hate Harry Redknapp, as you know, but this is an opinion. This is clearly not a fact. But enough teams have done the double to win a treble. You need a squad, okay? So the reason Arsenal didn't win the League Cup in 1998, why was that? Or why in 2002 they didn't win the League Cup? Or why did Manchester United not win the League Cup in 1999? Actually, there's teams who have to juggle squads. You give those teams the equivalent in that day of £600 million. They've got 2 squads. It becomes a lot easier. You know, it becomes a lot
very
easier.
fair point. Yeah.
And this is where I am. And all I'm saying with Pep Guardiola, I'm not saying you should go and manage Tottenham, but the bit about the sabbatical annoys me because he didn't have to take a sabbatical. He could have taken a job like other managers do. He was waiting for something ready-made. Which
he was going bald. I'll take a
I think that's a bit of an irrelevant point. I think you can call someone else taking a holiday.
To me, I think it says a lot about what we're dealing with. But all I'm saying is, to be considered a great at some point between now and the end of his career, he has to do something different.
Would you change your mind if he won the Champions League this season? Because admittedly, he doesn't have the best team in Europe. But that's unfair because
I would say he's been.
You have to give him credit for that.
I would, of course, I'd give him credit. I would say he has succeeded at Manchester City if he wins the Champions League this season.
Okay, fine.
But he was the pre-tournament favourite to win the Champions League.
He'd be the only manager to win 3 Champions Leagues.
Right, guys, we're going to go around the room. We're going to get a closing statement from each of you, and then we're going to wrap up with the poll results from the Twitter poll that we put out earlier on. So let's have your closing statements. Is Pep Guardiola overrated, and why? Alavi, you go first, mate. You're a bit more on the fence.
I would say he is ever so slightly overrated. Not as good pound-for-pound manager as a Jose Mourinho. However, I admire him immensely for revolutionising football in its modern day and for the style of football that he plays.
Okay. Lawrence, your closing statement, sir.
Go on to www.wikipedia.org/Guardiola, hit the honours tab, and just see all the amount of trophies he's won in a very short amount of time. About 11 years he's won. He averages about 2.5 trophies a season. It's unbelievable. And I just feel bad for the guy that he's been linked to Spurs. I mean, I can't believe it. I thought he was doing well at City. Now he might be managing Spurs one day. So I hope he's doing all right, Pep Guardiola, if he's watching this podcast.
Lovely stuff. Dan, the final closing statement of the evening. It's been a great debate. Go ahead.
Include the interview statement, Dan.
Sorry? He's obviously hugely overrated at this time. I think that's pretty obvious. He spent £600 million to add to a spine that already existed, and he can't even beat Tottenham.
Dan, what did he come and say today? Pep himself is like he knew we were doing this.
Yeah, but you sent this to me a minute.
He said, "I could not manage a team that wasn't filled with star players such as a Man City." He said it himself today. It's like he knew we were doing the pod.
Maybe that's because his standards are so high that he doesn't want to work with crap players. There's that as well. Right, guys, that brings us to the end of the show. We've run over, as we always do, but it's been a great debate. My thanks to Buvey for joining us. Lawrence, thank you so much, mate. Really appreciate your time. Alavi, thank you very much. Dan, thank you very much. The Twitter poll results are as follows. Is Pep Guardiola overrated? 33% said yes, and 67% said no. So a resounding victory for the no camp. Although, Dan, you put up a great fight, I've got to say. Don't forget this podcast, this episode, this show, the debate is sponsored by tvsportsblog.com. So do head over there for some fantastic content surrounding football, cricket, boxing, racing. They cover it all over at TV Sportsblog. So do head over there, and we're very proud to be linked with them. We'll be back very, very soon with more. My thanks once again to the guests. And until next time, take care. Ciao.